The rain wouldn't stop that day. It came down in slow, steady sheets, soaking the black umbrellas that crowded around my father's grave. I stood there still, my shoes sinking into the wet ground as they lowered the coffin. Linda sniffled beside me, clutching a white handkerchief like she'd lost her soul. "He was a wonderful man," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. I turned toward her. "You didn't even love him." Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, cold, controlled. "Careful, Ethan, people are watching." "I don't care who's watching," I said, my voice low. "You already took everything else." The lawyer, Mr. Jennings, stepped closer, whispering under the sound of rain. "I'm sorry, Ethan, but your father's estate, everything is legally hers." I froze. "What do you mean everything?" He sighed. "Your father made changes before he passed. The will leaves the house, the accounts, even the business shares, to Linda." My heart sank. He wouldn't do that. Not to me. "I wish I could tell you otherwise." Jennings hesitated, eyes heavy with pity, "but it's all signed and sealed. She owns it all." Linda's lips curled into something almost like a smile. "Your father wanted me to be secure. You know how much he worried about me. Secure?" I laughed bitterly. "You made sure he had plenty to worry about." She tucked the handkerchief into her purse. "Grief makes people say ugly things, Ethan. You should get some rest." "Grief doesn't make me lie." Her face hardened. "You always were dramatic. Maybe that's why your father never trusted you with real responsibility." That hit harder than I expected. "You manipulated him," I said quietly. "You turned him against me." She sighed, pretending to wipe a tear. "He loved you, but you were reckless." "I was only trying to protect what he built." "By signing it over to yourself?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. When the ceremony ended, people drifted away, offering shallow condolences. I stood there long after the crowd left. The rain soaked through my jacket, but I didn't move. My father's coffin was gone, and with it, every part of the life I knew. Mr. Jennings came back, holding out an envelope. "This was meant for you," he said softly. I took it, hands trembling. Inside was my father's old watch, silver, scratched, and still ticking. No note, no apology. Just time still moving, even when he wasn't. Linda walked past me toward the car. "You should take care of yourself," she said without looking back. "You're all alone now," her words dug deep. She wanted me to feel small, defeated, powerless. I clenched the watch in my palm. "Not for long," I whispered. Jennings frowned. "Ethan, what will you do now?" I looked at him, then at the sky. "Start over," he sighed. "It won't be easy. Nothing worth it ever is." As I walked toward the mansion for the last time, I noticed the movers already waiting. Linda's orders, no doubt. Everything was being cataloged, boxed, and labeled under her name. "Don't touch the study," I said to one of them. "I'll get my things." He nodded politely, avoiding my eyes. I packed only what mattered, a few clothes, an old photo of my dad and me fishing, and that silver watch. From downstairs, I heard Linda's laughter echoing through the hall. "Be careful with that painting," she said sweetly. "It's worth more than your job." I paused at the top of the stairs, my chest burning. "You're unbelievable," I muttered. She turned, eyes glinting. "What's that?" "Nothing," I said flatly. "I'm done talking to thieves." Her smile vanished. "You'll regret speaking to me that way." I met her gaze, calm but cold. "Maybe, but not as much as you'll regret what you've done." For a moment, neither of us moved. The silence between us was heavier than the rain outside. Then I turned and walked out, the door closing behind me with a hollow thud. The air outside smelled like wet earth and endings. I stood at the edge of the driveway, staring at the mansion, her mansion now. My father had trusted her with everything. She'd rewarded that trust by burying him and cashing in the dirt, but I wasn't broken. Not yet. I slipped the watch onto my wrist. The ticking was steady, strong. It reminded me that time doesn't stop for anyone. Not for love, not for betrayal, not even for death. I whispered to the rain, "I won't beg. I'll build." Then I walked away from the only home I'd ever known, carrying nothing but a watch, a promise, and a fire that refused to die. The walls of my new apartment were thin enough to hear every neighbor's argument. I lay on the mattress, no bed frame, no comfort, staring at a water stain that looked like a question mark. That felt about right. My whole life was one big question mark. My phone buzzed. It was Sophie. "Hey," she said, her voice light but cautious. "You alive?" "Barely. I brought coffee." "Open the door before I kick it." I dragged myself up and unlocked it. She stepped in, holding 2 cups and a brown paper bag. She wrinkled her nose. "Smells like despair in here." "It's the noodles," I said. "They've become part of the air." She laughed softly, then looked around. "This place, it's small. It's what I can afford." She set the cups on the table. "You don't deserve this, Ethan." "I don't," I admitted. "But maybe I need it." She sat beside me. "Need what, misery?" "Perspective." Her eyes softened. "You've always been like this. You lose everything, and somehow you're still trying to find a reason for it. Finding a reason is better than losing my mind." She handed me a sandwich. "Eat before your wisdom kills you." I smiled faintly and took a bite. "You're still bossy." "Someone has to be." For a while, we just sat there in silence, listening to the city hum through cracked windows. Then she said, "Did you see the news?" "No. I try not to ruin my nights anymore. Linda sold your father's mansion. It's all over social media." The bite in my mouth turned to stone. "Already?" "She moved in with some guy. A businessman, apparently." "Figures." I set the sandwich down. "She doesn't waste time," Sophie frowned. "You okay?" "No," I said honestly, "but I will be." She reached across the table, her hand brushing mine. "You don't have to pretend around me." "I'm not pretending. I just can't afford to stay broken." Her voice softened. "What are you going to do now?" "Work, save, build something that doesn't crumble when someone dies." She leaned back, studying me. "You sound like your father." I smiled bitterly. "He built everything for love. I'll build for survival." That night, after she left, I opened my laptop. The screen light filled the dark room, flickering across the cracked wall like a promise. I typed job listings until my eyes burned, anything that paid rent. By the end of the week, I was working 2 part-time jobs, day shifts at a delivery company and nights cleaning office buildings. Sleep became a rumor. Food became noodles. But every paycheck, no matter how small, felt like a middle finger to fate. One evening, while I was cleaning floors, my phone buzzed again. It was Mark, an old college friend. "Ethan, I've been trying to reach you," he said. "Yeah, sorry. Life's been a mess. I heard about your dad." "I'm sorry, man." "Thanks," he hesitated. "Listen, remember that software idea we used to joke about? I've been working on it. I could use your brain." I paused, leaning on the mop. "You're serious?" "Completely." "We could start small. A few clients, maybe grow it." "I don't have money, you've got skills." "That's enough for now," I laughed quietly. "You're insane." "Probably," he said. "But you need something new, don't you?" I looked around the empty office, smelling bleach and loneliness. "Yeah," I said. "I really do." The next week, we met at a cafe. Mark spread out his laptop and sketches across the table. "We build simple apps, affordable stuff for small businesses. I handle clients, you handle code." I stared at the screen. "We could actually make this work." "We will," he said. "But only if you stop living off noodles." "I'll consider it after our first paycheck." Sophie showed up halfway through our meeting. "You two look like conspirators. Future millionaires," Mark said. She rolled her eyes. "Sure, I'll believe it when you buy real furniture." I smiled. "Don't tempt me." "I'm starting from the bottom, remember?" "Then make the bottom worth something," she said. That line stuck with me long after she left. Weeks passed. Our tiny project turned into long nights of code, laughter, and caffeine. I stopped counting losses and started counting progress. One night, as I closed my laptop, I caught my reflection in the window. My face looked different. Tired, yes, but alive. I whispered to myself, "My revenge won't be loud. It'll be built in silence," and for the first time since my father's funeral, I believed it. When I woke up that morning, sunlight actually hit my floor instead of a pile of bills. The apartment was small, but it was mine. Quiet, clean, and filled with books I'd once promised myself I'd read when life stopped hurting. Mark barged in holding 2 coffees. "Ethan, my man," he said, grinning like a kid on Christmas. "Guess what? We just closed Series B. Investors love us." I blinked, half in disbelief. "You're kidding." He slapped the contract down on my desk. "Nope, we're millionaires, man." I stared at the papers. The logo we built on late nights, fueled by instant noodles and revenge, sat there printed in glossy ink. Millionaires, I repeated, my voice flat. Mark frowned. You don't sound happy. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Money doesn't erase betrayal, Mark. It just balances the equation, he smirked. Then let's call it even, I smiled faintly. Not yet. We spent the next few hours going through figures, celebrating quietly. But when he left, silence filled the apartment again, the kind that reminded me of everything I'd lost before I learned how to rebuild. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, hello? I answered. Ethan? The voice was calm, older, familiar in a distant way. It's Nora, your father's lawyer, I froze. Nora? I haven't heard from you in years. I know, she said, but I came across something you should see. What is it? Linda's name appears on several documents related to your father's estate. The thing is, she hesitated. The signatures aren't your father's, they were forged. For a second, I couldn't breathe. What did you just say? She used fake papers to transfer control of certain assets after his passing, Nora explained softly. Technically, she stole from both of you. I gripped the edge of my desk. My voice dropped to a whisper. She stole more than money, Nora. She stole his peace. I'm sorry, she said. I thought you deserved to know. Thank you, I murmured before ending the call. The room felt heavier. My reflection in the glass window looked like a stranger, someone carved out of pain and rebuilt with quiet fury. I walked to the shelf, grabbed a bottle of whiskey I'd kept untouched for years and poured a glass. The amber liquid caught the evening light, warm and deceptive. To karma, I muttered, raising it to my reflection. The city glowed beneath me, lights flickering like confessions. I thought about Linda laughing at a dinner table somewhere, wearing diamonds bought with my father's legacy. The same woman who left me when the bank took the house, Mark called again later. You good? You sound off. I just got some news, I said quietly. Turns out Linda wasn't done hurting me. What did she do this time? She forged documents. Took control of Dad's assets, a long pause. You're kidding. No, Mark exhaled sharply. Then what's the plan? I looked out at the skyline. We build higher, I said. We build until she has to look up to see me again. He chuckled darkly. I like that, I didn't. Not exactly. It wasn't about liking, it was about balance. The kind of balance the universe owed me. Hours passed, the city humming outside. I opened old folders on my laptop. Financial records, court files, press clippings about Linda and her new life. Each headline stung less than the last. Maybe because I was finally stronger than the pain they carried. When the night grew quiet, I closed everything and stared at the dark screen reflecting my face. Success didn't feel like victory. It felt like preparation. Mark texted one last time before bed. Tomorrow's our official announcement. Don't stay up too late, I typed back. Too late for that. As I set the phone down, something shifted in me. It wasn't grief anymore. It wasn't longing. It was purpose, cold, deliberate, and patient. Linda thought she'd written the last chapter of my story years ago. She had no idea I was only halfway through. I poured another glass and whispered to the city, let's see how it feels when the truth finally comes for her. The reflection in the window didn't smile back. It just stared, steady, unshaken. For the first time in years, I felt ready. Mrs. Gray met me at the stairs. New tenant moved in, she said. Linda Carter. Linda? I asked. The same. Prideful. Barely pays. Keeps asking for extensions. When I saw her at the door, she looked smaller than the headlines. Worn shoes, a scarf knotted wrong. I forced a smile. Hi, I'm Ethan. I live across the hall. Hello, she said. Politeness like paper. Nice to meet you. Settling in okay? I asked. Fine, money's tight. Mrs. Gray mentioned that. If you need anything, knock. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That night, I left an envelope with a check at Mrs. Gray's door. No name. Someone paid again, she told me later. No name. Just an envelope. I kept paying, monthly. The checks left my account quietly. Each felt like a private verdict. Sophie called. You're distant. She's here, I said. Linda? Her voice changed. Ethan, this is wrong. Revenge won't heal you. It's not revenge, I said. It's balance. Balance doesn't bring him back, she said. It might keep you stuck. Through the thin wall, I heard her life fray, arguing over bills, a clerk's pity, the sound of her crying. Once she whispered, "I thought money would keep me safe." A man's voice answered, "You paid for that." I pressed my palm to the wall. Pity and something colder churned in my chest. Weeks later, Mrs. Gray said Linda needed an extension for medical bills. I left a larger envelope labeled, "For help." Sophie found it. "You gave more." I did. It feels like buying calm. If it buys calm, it's worth it. The payments continued. Linda's life shrank in small humiliations, a cut phone line, a notice, a lost application. I watched from a distance without glee, with cold attention that made me feel both powerful and empty. Once I met her on the landing, her face blank. "Do I know you?" "You did," I said. She blinked. "No. Do you remember my father?" I asked. Her gaze slid away. "I have nothing to say." "Then don't," I said, and walked away. One night, Sophie showed up with takeout. "You're quieter than usual," she said, sliding into the chair. "Someone had to pay," I said. "For what?" she asked. "For righting a wrong," I said. "Quietly," she set her fork down. "Ethan, anonymous checks won't fix grief. They'll only give you a role to play, the silent avenger." "I'm tired of shouting," I said. "This is quieter." "It keeps me honest," she shook her head. "It keeps you chained." "Maybe I like being chained to something true," I said. "True?" she echoed. "Is this about truth or about control?" "Both," I admitted. Sophie grabbed my hand. "Promise me you'll stop if it eats you." "If it eats me, it ends," I said. She didn't look convinced. Instead, I chose small, steady payments and silence. When Linda asked Mrs. Gray for another extension, I sent a larger check marked for help. When she fell ill, I left extra money for medicine. Months later, Mrs. Gray told me Linda was leaving to stay with a cousin. "She said someone's been helping," Mrs. Gray smiled. "She didn't know who." "Good," I said. "Then let the debt sit in her chest." Sophie visited that day. "Did you feel anything?" she asked. "A little quiet," I admitted. "Good quiet?" she asked. "I hope so," I said. The check stopped. The hall was empty. For now, that would have to do. I slept better that night. Mrs. Gray knocked on my door early. "She's behind again," she said. I knew who she meant before she said it. "Linda?" Mrs. Gray nodded. "Cried in my office this morning. Said she never thought people could change so fast. Guess her boyfriend left her, Lucas, I think. Took what was left of her savings." I leaned against the doorframe. "He used her. She used others," Mrs. Gray sighed. "Life evens out, doesn't it?" I didn't answer. That evening, I stood across the street, hands in my coat pockets. Linda shuffled up the steps carrying a thin grocery bag, cheap bread, instant soup, a carton of milk. Her hair, once perfectly styled, now clung to her face. She looked smaller, almost invisible. I whispered to myself, "So this is what power costs." Sophie called. "You sound far away again." "I'm outside," I said. "Outside where?" "Across from her building." A pause. "Why?" "She's falling apart," I said quietly. "You wanted this," Sophie reminded me. "This was supposed to make you feel something." "I thought it would," I said. "But it doesn't." "What do you feel?" I exhaled. "Pity," Sophie's voice softened. "Then maybe that's growth." I watched Linda drop her keys, kneel to pick them up, then pause, her shoulders shaking before she stood again. I'd seen her fake tears at a funeral, but these looked real. "She's crying," I said. "Would you rather see her laugh?" Sophie asked. "No," I said. "But I don't need to see her cry either." Silence stretched between us, only the city hum filling it. "Do you hate her that much?" Sophie asked finally. "No," I whispered. "I pity her." "You could walk away, Ethan." "I could," I said, staring at the dim light flickering in Linda's window. "But walking away means forgiving myself first." "Then maybe start there," Sophie said gently. Later that night, I found Mrs. Gray again. "Add next month's rent to my tab," I said. She blinked. "You're still paying for her?" "She doesn't need to know." "You're strange, Ethan. Most people would want to see her thrown out." "I've seen her fall far enough," I said. "No one needs to watch the last step." When I walked home, the air felt lighter. The next morning, Sophie met me at a cafe. She slid a mug toward me. "You didn't sleep." "Didn't want to," I said, "because of her?" "Because of me." Sophie studied me. "You're realizing revenge has limits," I smirked. "It's overrated," she smiled faintly. "You used to talk about justice like it was a finish line. Now it feels like a mirror," I said. "You reach it and all you see is yourself. Do you like what you see?" I thought about it. More than before. When I left the cafe, I passed Linda again. She was sitting on the curb, staring at a rejection letter. Her eyes were red, her clothes plain. She didn't notice me. Maybe that was better. For a moment, I wanted to cross the street, tell her everything, how her lies ruined lives, how I rebuilt mine from the ground up. But the words stayed buried. Instead, I whispered, "You already know." I walked away. Each step felt quieter than the last. By the time I reached my building, Mrs. Gray waved from the porch. "She paid her rent," she said, smiling. "Said someone up there must still believe in her." "Maybe someone does," I said. Sophie texted later. "Did you see her?" "Yes, and?" I didn't need revenge anymore. Her reply came quickly. "That's what peace sounds like." I looked out my window at the night sky. The lights of the city shimmered like promises I hadn't made yet. For the first time, I didn't feel bitterness or pride, just a quiet acceptance. Revenge didn't taste sweet anymore. It tasted like closure. I was signing a delivery slip in the lobby when I heard my name. Soft, trembling, "Ethan?" I turned. Linda stood by the elevator, clutching a worn handbag like it held her last bit of pride. Her hair was gray at the roots, her eyes tired. "Ethan," she said again, voice cracking. "I didn't know you lived here." I met her gaze calmly. "You didn't know a lot of things," she flinched. I wasn't trying to avoid you. You just what?" I asked quietly. "Forgot I existed?" Her lips trembled. "I made mistakes, Ethan, so many. I thought I could fix things if I just kept going." I crossed my arms. "You mean if you kept taking?" She shook her head. "No, Her voice broke. "I was scared. After your father died, everything felt like it was slipping away. I thought money would keep me safe." "Safe?" I repeated. "You took everything he built. You didn't even leave me his watch." She looked down. "I sold it. I had to survive." I let out a humorless laugh. "Survival. You called that survival?" She wiped her cheeks, tears smearing her makeup. "I lost everything, Ethan. The house, Lucas, the friends all gone." "Then maybe you finally know what it feels like," I said quietly. Her eyes met mine again, pleading. "I never meant to hurt you. You have to believe that." "I don't have to believe anything," I said. "Belief died with him." She stepped closer, hesitant. "You're right. I destroyed everything your father trusted me with, but look at you now." "You made it," I nodded slowly. "Because of what you did." She looked confused. "Because of me? Pain teaches better than comfort," I said. "You just gave me the lesson early." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The lobby was quiet except for the hum of the lights and her uneven breathing. "I used to tell myself I did what I had to do," she said, voice shaking. "But the truth is I was greedy. I thought love could be replaced with things," I sighed. "Money doesn't save anyone, Linda. It only shows who we really are." Her hand covered her mouth as she began to cry harder. "You sound like your father," she whispered. "He used to say things like that." "Maybe he was right," I said softly. "He always was." She took another shaky breath. "You hate me, don't you?" "I don't," I said. "I did once, but hate takes energy and I don't waste mine anymore." She stared at me, almost desperate. "Then what do you feel when you see me?" "Nothing," I answered. "And that's how I know I'm free." She nodded slowly, tears dripping onto her hands. "You're a better man than I ever was a mother." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. "Ethan," she whispered, "I wish I could undo it all." "You can't," I said. "But maybe you can start by forgiving yourself. That's harder than asking anyone else to do it." She blinked, stunned by the gentleness in my tone. "You forgive me?" I paused. "I understand you." "That's enough!" She took a step forward, reaching out. I moved back, calm but firm. "Don't," I said. "This isn't about fixing us. It's about ending it." Her hand fell slowly to her side. "I guess I deserve that." "You deserve peace," I said. "But you'll have to earn it yourself." She nodded faintly, eyes red, voice fading. "Thank you for not hating me." I turned toward the exit. "You made sure I learned how not to." As I walked away, I could feel her gaze on my back, heavy, regretful, broken. She whispered something, too soft to hear, but I didn't stop to listen. The glass doors slid open, letting in the evening breeze. I stepped out, breathing in the cold air like it was the first clean breath in years. Behind me, the elevator dinged softly, her world rising again. Mine already above it. That was my real revenge. Not her tears, not her guilt, just my indifference. Mrs. Gray called me just after noon. "Ethan," she said, her voice unusually quiet. "Your tenant, Linda, she's gone." I froze. "Gone where?" "She moved out last week." Her nephew came for her. "Said she's been sick." "Cancer, maybe." They didn't say much else. My hand tightened around the phone. "Sick? That's what I heard," she said softly. She left a few boxes behind. "Didn't owe a dime on rent, thanks to you." I exhaled slowly. "Thank you, Mrs. Gray. I'll stop by later." When I arrived, the apartment looked smaller than I remembered. The air carried the faint scent of old perfume and dust. The curtains were gone. The light hit the walls unevenly, like time had peeled the place apart. Mrs. Gray stood in the doorway. "She didn't take much," she said. "A suitcase, a photo frame, a blanket." "What photo frame?" I asked. She pointed to the counter. Inside the frame was a faded picture, my father, Linda, and me at the lake. I remembered the day clearly. I was 12, sunburned, and smiling because Dad was still alive. I ran my thumb across the glass. "She kept this?" Mrs. Gray nodded. "Some people don't forget, even when they pretend to." I set the frame down and handed her an envelope. "For her medical bills," I said. She looked at me with surprise. "You don't have to—" "I know," I interrupted gently. "But I want to." She took the envelope carefully. "You're a good man, Ethan." I shook my head. "No, just someone who learned the hard way." Mrs. Gray smiled faintly. "Still, I hope she realizes what you did." "She won't," I said. "And that's fine." As I left the building, the winter air bit at my face. The city buzzed like it always did, alive and indifferent. I walked home with my hands in my pockets, feeling lighter but hollow at the same time. That night, Sophie came over. She found me on the balcony staring at the skyline. "You went to see her place," she said, sitting beside me. I nodded. "It's empty now." "She really left?" "Moved in with relatives." "She's sick." Sophie's eyes softened. "You okay?" "I don't know," I said. I thought I'd feel relieved, but all I feel is quiet. She leaned on the railing. "That's what peace feels like sometimes," I chuckled weakly. "It doesn't feel like peace. It feels like the end of a storm that lasted too long." "She'll never know it was you," Sophie said after a pause. "She doesn't need to," I answered. "Some debts are paid in silence," Sophie smiled gently. "You still care," I turned toward her. "Maybe. Or maybe I just stopped caring enough to hate." She studied me for a moment.
Do you ever wish she'd apologized sooner?
"I used to," I admitted. "But if she had, I wouldn't have become this version of me." "The version that builds instead of breaks?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "The version that doesn't need revenge to breathe," she smiled. "Your dad would be proud." I stared out at the night. "He'd probably tell me I took too long." Sophie laughed softly. "He'd say you took exactly as long as you needed." I didn't answer. The stars were faint behind the city haze, but one or two still shone through. "You know," Sophie said, "you could call her. Just once. Say goodbye." "I don't need to," I said. "We said everything that mattered the day she saw me in that lobby." Sophie nodded slowly. "Then what will you do now?" "Live," I said simply. "That's the only thing I owe myself." The silence between us felt warm, like a long exhale after years of holding my breath. I turned the small photo frame over in my hands again, the one I'd taken from her apartment. "She kept this all these years," I murmured. Sophie looked at it. Maybe it reminded her of what she lost. Maybe it reminded her of who she betrayed. Or maybe, Sophie said softly, it reminded her that love existed once, even if she ruined it. I smiled faintly. "You always find the good in people." "Someone has to," she said. "You're too busy finding balance." "Balance," I repeated, almost to myself. "That's what this feels like. Not forgiveness, not revenge, just balance." Sophie took my hand. "Then maybe it's time to stop looking back," I nodded. "Yeah." We stood there quietly, watching the city lights blink like slow heartbeats. For the first time in years, the past didn't feel heavy. It just felt finished. Sophie leaned her head against my shoulder. You think she'll ever know? I shook my head. She doesn't need to. Some lessons are meant to stay unnamed. And what about you? She asked. What do you need now? Nothing, I said. For once, nothing at all. The night breeze brushed against my face. I closed my eyes, hearing the distant hum of cars, the soft rhythm of a city that never stopped moving forward. Linda was out there somewhere. Older, frailer, maybe thinking about the boy she once pushed aside. Maybe not. Either way, I didn't need to know, because I was finally free from her shadow, free from the anger, free from the past. As I looked up at the stars, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. It wasn't loud. It wasn't triumphant. It was quiet, like the sound of forgiveness whispered to no one. And that was enough.